Hello there, and happy Tuesday evening for us here in Los Angeles. If I haven't met you, my name is Julie Hirschberg. I'm a neurologic physical therapist. I'm the owner and founder of Re+active Therapy and Wellness. I'm here in the Los Angeles area and coming to you every week to share what we're learning, what we're doing as a team here, and I have so much to share this week. I can't wait. I have one piece to share today that I'm particularly excited about, and that's about the education that comes alongside working with people with functional neurologic disorders. And honestly, this is not different than a lot different than the education we want to provide any of our patients with any neurologic disorders, to educate about the brain and neuroplasticity and what it means to make connections in the brain and brain to body. All of those pieces are so important in so many neurologic disorders. But there are some unique things in functional neurologic disorders, and frankly, we didn't get them in school. So I think these are really important. So today I'm really excited because I'm going to share with you pieces of the workbook. We've created, our whole team, by the way, PT, OT, psychology, wellness, has come together to create a workbook that we use in our functional neurologic disorders intensive programs here at Re+active. So I want to share some pieces with you, and let me start with just what this looks like. So this is our workbook, and it actually has about 30 pages. We tend not to do the whole thing at once. That can be obviously overwhelming. And if you know me, if you know us, we always start with the patient in front of us and what their understanding is. So that literally is one of the pages from the workbook. So I'm going to share this with you. I think it is the most important thing, not just in functional neurologic disorders, but in many disorders. You want to start, in my opinion, the person who is the most knowledgeable about their body, about their brain, what's happening for them, is the patient themselves. And they're going to share so much with you. And you're going to gain so many insights just from asking the questions. So this is one of the pages of our workbook. And we actually, in our programs now, we send out this worksheet here, Understanding Your Symptoms, and it's the patient pie chart. We actually send that out to people before they ever start with us. We take a look at it as a team to see what that person understands and knows about their disorder, and it really informs what we do. So we ask the person themselves, what do you know and understand? How could we ever go into educating somebody and just throwing out random bits of information about the brain and neuroplasticity without understanding where they are to start? And so we have people get really creative with us. They send us these amazing craft projects or just a simple pie. We want to understand what people understand about their symptoms, where they think those symptoms are coming from, or do they feel like it's coming from the brain or the nervous system? Is it coming from their tissues? Is it coming from the life or from environment? And honestly, we get so much information from asking the question. So this is a very important part of the workbook. And often when people ask me, like, well, where do I start? Start by asking. So start by asking the patient in front of you. Again, the person is the expert. So your patient is the expert on themselves, and they may need some guidance. They may want some coaching, but without asking the questions, you can never really start on the right foot. So a very important part of our workbook here. Now, I'm not going to go through all 25 pages because that's kind of a lot, but I picked out some of my favorites. I feel like I have a lot of favorites now. But let me even show you, I showed you where we start with that patient one. I want to show you just kind of our content. So in the workbook, we do an introduction. And actually, I just updated this today because I wasn't happy with it. So we talk about what is functional neurologic disorder, what is a functional movement disorder. We talk about neuroplasticity. And one of the things that I changed and updated today was adding in more of the research and understanding of what we know about what happens in the brain and the different brain areas that are involved. And I took out the software hardware analogy. Now, if you are in the functional neurologic disorder world, you probably have heard this hardware software analogy, and maybe it's just that I feel like maybe it's gotten overdone for myself because I've been using that analogy for the last 10 years. And I think it can be a helpful analogy, but I think so many people tell me that it just doesn't resonate with them, that we changed some of the introduction to be more general about, and because the science has grown, we started this workbook in 2020, and in the last 3 years, the science has really grown. So we've updated this educational piece about what's happening in the brain. That's in the introduction. Then we have understanding your condition, how you work together in understanding different disciplines and different symptoms and things. And then we have a really great section of let's get started. And what I love about this is our OTs gave a lot of input on this part, is it takes you through very small steps to get started. Because sometimes when you look at the whole picture, like I'm going to try to go from being in the wheelchair to running again, it can feel really overwhelming. So it really starts with one small step that a person can take. So that's the overall outline of the workbook. I'm going to show you a couple of pieces that I love, and myself or our team uses these a lot. So this is a very big one. This life in the environment, the river runneth over analogy. I love a good analogy. And this one was from the talk that we did, Chelsea Richardson, our FND program director, Mike Studer, Carly Lockala, both amazing physical therapists, neurophysical therapists based in Oregon, and then myself. We did a presentation literally just a couple months before the pandemic hit, and we developed this analogy together to talk and help explain nervous system regulation. And I just love it. Now, I will say, you can take this analogy and run with many different ways. You can use the bucket. Some people use a bucket analogy. I like the river. I just love being outside. I love the mountains. I love the whole idea of using the river runneth over. So when we use this in education, again, I want to say, this is not just like, today we're discussing the river. Like, no, it is more that the person is asking and wanting to really understand their nervous system regulation, recognizing huge overflows, seizures, tremor, dystonia, weakness. They're noticing symptoms. They're starting to notice that maybe there are a few things that are contributing to those symptoms. So those are clouds up above, but they really want to understand it more. That's when we kind of go, yeah, you're right. This is like this analogy. And oftentimes I don't even have the picture in front of me, but we'll draw it together. What is in your river? What are those overflow symptoms? What are some of the things that we understand or we've discovered together in therapy that might be driving that? And most importantly, what we're doing in therapy is we are digging out that river. We're making it deeper. We're making it wider. We're adding sandbags. We're building up walls. We're making an aqueduct. We're making the little tributaries, like whatever you want to call it. But together we're discovering what are those things that give you more space in your nervous system. And those can be so many different things. I'm going to be talking about oh my gosh, I'm so excited about some of the recent literature in this realm of comorbid conditions like hypermobility, like autism, that may be some of the predisposing factors for FND, may be part of the picture. And it's sometimes managing things like the sensory environment, managing pain, just managing joint subluxations that actually widen that river for people. Which brings me to another piece. And let me bring up another piece of our workbook here. And that's the window. I really love this. Let me see if I can grab the book where this is developed from, because it's called Widen the Window. I have my little bookcase here with all my books. So Widen the Window by Elizabeth Stanley. Really great book. Some really great practices in here as well. And the idea, just kind of like we said, widening the river, this is just another way to explain it, another analogy. This also gets into a little bit more of the autonomic nervous system. So we want to what we're looking to do in many disorders and in life is widen the window. How wide is that just right level of stimulation, for example, of your nervous system? And what you can see here is in some of the theories of the autonomic nervous system, one of them is the polyvagal theory. And in many folks, and we see this in symptoms as well, people can be either really in like a fight or flight or in a full-on freeze, and very little, very narrow space in between those, which is a really safe and secure space. And so we explore together. This is where I think it's really nice to have a whole team. What are those sensory pieces that bring a sense of safety? What are the environmental and lifestyle pieces that bring that sense of safety? What are the emotional pieces? So you can see OT, PT, psychology really collaborating to find that and widening that ability. So this is another one of the pieces of our workbook that I really love to bring in. And again, not all of these at once. And usually these are in response to someone's question. So I think this is so important. I saw, I think it was on Twitter. It was a person, it was a patient really, who had a bad experience with pain neuroscience education, which is a whole realm of therapy treatment in pain. And I think she had such a good statement to say, hey, you can't just throw education at people. You really need to understand what they're bringing to the table, what questions they have, what understanding they have. And, that's the pain neuroscience education is not meant to be thrown at people either. But I think that's a big part of education in general. And even any of our interventions in general, they're not meant to be like thrown at the wall and see what sticks kind of thing. They're meant to be almost like a call and response. What's a person asking? And what do we know and understand and help explain and get those like light bulb moments of understanding. So I'm going to share just a couple more pieces in our workbook, again, that I love. There's two pieces that go with this nervous system regulation that I really love that our OTs have added. And this is really looking at and exploring together what helps you regulate. And so you can see these different pieces, are there breathing pieces, are there sensory pieces, and so on. And this is meant to also really drive the person to identify things and bring this to therapy. This goes along really well with this other one that I got to share, which is looking at the different sensory systems and what people find either calming or energizing. And again, this is typically done in OT, but we bring this throughout PT, throughout psychology, throughout yoga therapy, each of these pieces. And the person is exploring, and we're exploring together a lot of different sensory experiences. But again, this part of the workbook is really helpful to drive that interaction. One of the things, and I was actually telling a fellow psychologist this week about this, is there's a time and a place for a workbook, right? And it's not that we need or want a manual or a cookie cutter approach to anything, because I think that is absolutely not what you need for any human, but also just not what you need for FND. But if you are getting kind of stuck, if you're not knowing where to start, it can be helpful to have some tools as a therapist. It's a big reason why we have made the FND workbook that we use in our practice a completely free part of our mini course that is coming up in June. So this FND workbook, when you sign up for our course, you're gonna be able to download it. Use every sheet, download every sheet, use them individually, use them together, print them out, send them electronically, however you want to. It's completely free, and it's part of the bonuses in our FND Mini course. So going back, my last one, my last favorite, I have a lot of favorites, but this is one of my absolute favorites. And again, this is such a cute one. Chelsea Richardson made this one, again, as part of the presentation that we did for CSM in 2020 with our great colleagues, presenting to thousands of physical therapists, by the way, the treatment journey and talking about flares of symptoms. This can be one of the most difficult parts of many disorders, right? Where they might be unpredictable, symptoms might flare. We expect that in many disorders, functional neurologic disorders, definitely. But what we also expect is when a person is working with a team, like the PT, OT, psychology, we build tools to manage a flare so that a person can live life freely, knowing that might come, but they have the tools for it. And so this is a really important concept again. And again, I don't just come day one, you're gonna have flares, here's this graph, blah, blah, blah. No, this really comes from those discussions. Oftentimes they're a discussion we're getting closer to discharge, and that person's expressing a lot of fear, of course, over this occurring. It's a very well-founded fear of having a reoccurrence of symptoms. And we talk through that, and we talk through that river runneth over, or their toolbox of many different things that they now know and understand about their nervous system that maybe they didn't know before coming to therapy, and ways and techniques and things that they can manage symptoms even if they have a flare, because there's a lot of things out in the world that we cannot control, and if you have symptoms, especially symptoms that are triggered by sensory pieces. So we explore these together with patients, but bright lights, flashing lights, loud sounds. Hey, we're not always going to be able to control those things, but we know that we can provide other things for the body and the other sensory systems, so that either the person is not experiencing symptoms with that, or they have the things to help control the symptoms. So we use this analogy and this piece really commonly. So let me go back here. I'll just stop sharing actually. That was a few of the 30 or so pages in our FND workbook. This again was created by the whole Re+active team, PT, OT, psychology, a wellness team, such a great group of resources that go into various pieces of our programs that we do in FND. And I'm sharing it with you because I have been putting together and I'm so excited. Our FND Mini course that is coming out in June, and it's completely new. Chelsea Richardson and I are teaching this course, and we just went through and updated a bunch of things. We're going to have a bunch of cases, every type of symptom like functional weakness, dystonia, functional seizures, functional tremor, lots of different cases, pediatric, adult, lots of different presentations, and different focuses for the cases: an autonomic focus, a sensory focus, a motor control focus, a lifestyle psychosocial focus. So we're bringing all that to the FND Mini course, and our FND workbook full of all of those educational pieces is a totally free bonus with the mini course. And I think it's worth its weight in gold to have all of those education pieces all in one place that you can refer to whenever you're working with someone with FND. And I know for our team, it's a great place to start when you're feeling kind of lost. So that is a free bonus in our mini course. Our mini course is live. It's for clinicians, by the way. So if you're a patient, send your therapist to this. So it's a clinician-based course. It's 2 hours, so it's got CEUs involved, and it's the latest update of all that we're doing in FND. It's live on June 8th, but it's also recorded. When you sign up for it, you get this free bonus of our FND workbook, but you'll also get a whole slew of resources. There's an evaluation cheat sheet. There's a treatment cheat sheet. There's a little library of how-to videos that you can use, like sensory testing, all those special sensory testing that we do. So all of this is included in the FND Mini course. It's really meant to be like your one-stop shop to get started in functional neurologic disorders. So that's happening June 8th. I also shared, if you're a student, so PT, OT, speech, a clinical student, we have a discount. It's 50% off. By the way, if you're ever a student, please reach out to us for a discount on anything. We believe in empowering students with very low cost education. So there's a student discount, and it's live on June 8th. There also are limited spots. So we're about halfway there. So we probably will sell out of the course. So definitely grab your spot, and we'll be so excited to see you there. Thanks for joining me today. Thanks for caring about some of the disorders that maybe are misunderstood. And thanks for learning and growing and sending great questions my way too. I appreciate it so much. I hope you have a wonderful evening, and I will catch you soon.